Greg, what's going on, man? How are you?
Outstanding this week, Neil. Outstanding. And so excited. Dude, I have to tell you, I feel so young because I was a young punk when I watched Little House on the Prairie and their 50th anniversary. Really?
Yes,
Really?
we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of Little House on the Prairie with a
Wow.
new book out by Dean Butler called Prairie Man: My Little House Life and Beyond. Dean, thanks for stopping by.
Listen, Neil, Greg, thank you for having me. Great to be with you this morning. It's Prairie Man all the time in my world right now.
Well, hey, that's the perfect thinking because you have such a built-in audience. How many Little House on the Prairie fans do you think there are in, let's just talk the United States?
You know, when you look at the amount of media that's available for Little House now, Little House streams on Amazon Prime, it streams on iTunes, it streams on Peacock. Um, It is available on Cozy TV. It's available on a 24/7 stream on Roku. There are a lot of places to see Little House on the Prairie 24 hours a day if you choose to do that in the US. Um, so that's a it's we you know it's often said that our audience cumulatively in terms of plays is larger than it was when it was new. Now, I don't know by what metric that's being measured, but there are a lot of people who love this program. In addition to what we do in the United States, the program is still running in over 140 countries around the world every day.
Wow.
So it has never been off the air since it premiered in 1974. Um, Somewhere in the world. It's never been off the air in the United States. And then it moves around the world, but it has found a pretty solid, devoted following. And what it's not surprising when you know the program, but it's just confirmation when we do events, and we all do events all over the country still related to Little House. It's so common. The common thing is to have parents, grandparents, and children come to these events to meet and say hi and celebrate their love of the program. So it's all ages of people who watch it. And I think that's one of the great benefits of the way Michael conceptualized, when I say Michael Landon conceptualized the show as a show for families to encourage young people, families of all ages, all members of families to sit and watch and talk together about what they were seeing. That it's the connectedness between the generation that were kids 50 years ago who are now sharing with the program with their grandchildren today. It's so constant. It's a beautiful thing. Michael said long ago, people will be watching this show long after we're all gone. Well, when he said that to me at 25, I don't know that I quite believed him, because at 25, you just can't imagine ever not being around. Now at 68, I look at it and say, yeah. I totally, now that the program is digital, in 2014, Little House became a digital property. It went from being strictly an analog vehicle to a digital streaming property. And that opens the door to a lifespan that's just, it can be reconfigured, the codecs can be updated to be whatever the most current thing is, but it can be there for people. And so that makes it a very potentially ongoing present thing in people's lives. So it's an amazing gift, guys. I mean, to be a part of something that is so beloved and so respected for what it does for its audience, how it serves its audience, is an incredible gift to all of us. And I feel it profoundly every day.
So, Dean, what was the impetus for you for writing the book Prairie Man?
In 2021, as the pandemic was going on and you're sort of rising out of that, and really the fact of this 50th anniversary came into really sharp focus. I mean, 3 years away, it was going to happen. I've been asked for years by fans, when are you going to write your book? When are you doing this? And I always was non-committal about it. And then in 2021, early 22, so I'm thinking, well, Melissa's written her book, and Karen's written her book, and Allison's written her book, and Charlotte Stewart's written a book, Kenny Lester has written a book, Melissa Sue Anderson has written a book. All these women who were associated, I mean, even the two women now who were babies on our program all those years ago have written books. So no men associated with the series have written a book. So that really, once that clarity of all the female presence around Little House, and look, Little House is a dominantly, the dominant demographic is women related watching Little House. There's no question about it. I mean, based on the Laura Ingalls Wilder books, the dominant demographic there was women. That's a pretty good demographic to be in, you know. And I know that this character, what I did on the show, had a very nice following among women who loved Laura. Laura was the sort of their, you know, their friend, an ideal young woman. They rooted for her. So when the character that I played came along, they were all in on this guy, or so many women were. And I thought, well, as a man in this situation, maybe I have something to say about this experience that is additive to what the women have said about Graham. And so that's what drove it. And I created a proposal, and it was walked into Kensington Publishing by a female friend of mine, Mary McDonough, who played Erin Walton on The Waltons. And she's published 3 books with Kensington, and the editor read my proposal and called me the next day and made an offer and said, well, this is kismet. This is supposed to happen. I had an agent tell me that no one would ever buy a book from me. It just not going to happen. You're going to pay them to write the book. Forget about that. Well, this really, the offer I got from Kensington was a vastly better offer than you'll pay them $5,000 to write the book. And so I was very flattered by that. And I set out in January of 2023, January 10th at 5 a.m. in the morning with a cup of coffee and my laptop open on the table in my dining room, and turned on everything and started writing. And
wow.
By July 31st of last year, I turned in my first draft, and we start making the corrections and adjustments. And here on June 25th of this year, they told me, whenever you turn it in, it's going to be a year before we can put it out. So however you want to do it, I wanted to be out in the summer of 24, because I just felt like, one, that was the first practical opportunity, because I had to have time to write this. So that was the deal. I did put that time pressure on myself. I knew that I needed the time pressure. I needed to have a deadline. So, and I needed to back out of, and as a producer, I'm very accustomed to backing out of deadlines. So right. If it's going to be ready here, where do I need to be here minus 6 months, minus a year? So that's how I really did that. It was small bites at a time. It was sort of the way Olympic athletes work. No one goes into the Olympics thinking that if they're going to set a world record, they all would like to do that. But the way they grow is incremental growth. It's like, it's a pound more, or a tenth of a second faster, or it's all incremental improvement that people are doing. So I needed to write, I don't know what the number was. It was like, 1,000. I think I needed to write 1,000 words a day, basically, is
Okay.
what I needed
Wow.
to get.
Okay. Now
You know,
I'm going to ask a different type of a question you would never maybe think about. What do you think Michael would think that he knew you wrote a book, especially how much Michael was a mentor to you on set and things like that, that you wrote a book about Little House?
That's a really great question. My relationship with Michael was not necessarily an easy one. He was a mentor to me, but he wasn't necessarily Michael was a mentor because I got to watch him do what he did. Michael did not say, in some where acting was concerned, he had some very specific things that he asked of me, and the things that he got me thinking about as I was working for him. But I didn't sit down, over cups of coffee and talk to Michael about writing or directing or producing. He just didn't have time for that, right. And I always felt like I was a little behind the 8 ball with him as a practical matter, as one guy to an older guy. I felt like, it just wasn't an easy relationship. I had enormous respect for him, but it wasn't an easy relationship. And for years, you get told the stories, or when you come into this, Michael's this great father figure, and he's everyone's best friend, and he's, all these things. And I found a slightly different guy than what I had been told I was going to find. Now, it doesn't mean that he wasn't everything on camera that it was self-evident what he was when you watched him on camera. What he was, this spectacular father figure on camera. He was a mentor. He was a safe space, and he was a safe space for millions and millions of people. He created that.
Right.
But Michael was much more complex than that as a person. If you factor in what goes on off camera, around the camera, around his life. He had an incredible work ethic, and he played very hard. And he was not easy for me as a 23-year-old guy to just engage him.
I got it. And in a lot of these super geniuses, he's a genius in his own right as an actor, especially with the show and the Cornerstone. The reason I asked that question was because there's not many male figures. And I wanted to point that male testosterone to Little House. And we just did it by Michael and you. And it's a very intriguing answer. And I ultimately believe a lot of times the ones that are so hyper successful, to a level when you talk about Michael Landau versus everybody else in as a household name that's still being watched 24/7, and they know him first person. If you say Little House on the Prairie and him, they'll say, yeah, that those geniuses that are going to be remembered forever sometimes are difficult people to deal with. Sometimes it is what it is. And they're not as easy as the on screen, because that super genius, that work ethic is hard to take off screen than on screen.
Yeah. I think, Neil, that's a very astute insight on your part. No one's ever put it quite like that to me before. And I don't think I've said in an interview what I just said to you about him and the complexity of the relationship, or something about the way you asked that question.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
all right. Yes. So we can go to more of the book with other questions, but guess what? I was just more looking at it in a way. We had Steve Gutenberg on last week, and it was so powerful because he wrote a book about losing his dad.
Yeah.
And we were talking and sharing about our dads. So that's where I kind of was thinking, Father Mail. We're going to continue,
Yeah,
and Father's Day. Father's
Day
Day's coming
Sunday.
up, so it's a
Yeah.
perfect purchase to pick up
No,
Prairie
good
Man
point.
today. Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead,
you
Greg.
know,
Next question. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
good point.
you know, and the funny thing about that, you know, right when Little House came out, 1974, I had just basically turned around 12. My dad had just died. He had just passed away. And I looked at Charles Ingalls, you know, as Michael Landon, as a role model. You know, so here I am as a guy, you know, enjoying the show because I didn't have any other male roles in my life. So it was something I looked forward to every week.
Wow. I think there were so many people who had that same experience that you did, Greg. I mean, Michael was just exceptional as an on-camera role model, and people, men, women of all ages, looked at Michael and looked at Karen Grassley, who played Caroline, as this ideal parental pair of people who demonstrated love and goodness and acceptance in their family. And it was really, truly a safe space for people to come into. The fact that in reality, the reality behind, and really the reality off camera, we talk about it and it's sort of interesting for people, but really what's important is the work that people are there to do. That's what it's about.
Yeah. It's about the product at the end of the day.
And the product was exceptional.
And how many lives are changed? We could have somebody that did a horrible thing at one point, and Michael didn't, but when, you know what I'm saying, like, was just like some of these things, but if they were able to create something so powerful that changed so many people's lives as this show did, and how much and thank you again, how do you feel as being part of this, how you've changed so many families' lives to really live a great family life?
Well, you know, I feel like being a part of Little House has just been the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, there's nothing other than my own blood family. And I think I had a really wonderful upbringing. It wasn't a perfect upbringing. I mean, what's a perfect upbringing? I don't know what that is. You know, but I grew up in a large, loving family, in a family that loved and respected each other. There were certainly flawed people within my family, as all families have. We're all people. We all have flaws. I came to appreciate the value of family in my own family. And I think I was able to take that appreciation into Little House with me. And to this day, it's very important to me. For me, it's 45 years. It's not 50 years. I'm a latecomer to the party. So I came in the show's 6th season, but it's very important to me to feel like when people meet me, they're getting what they saw. I mean, older with a little more life experience but that the essence of the person is the person that they watched and enjoyed on the program. If they watched and enjoyed, they see that and they get that. Yes. And they'll know that this is one and the same, that this wasn't something that was made up or fabricated out of my imagination or whatever. What I brought was what I had.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of the way television works, and all filmed entertainment works that way. I mean, there are very few actors who really can put an exterior on themselves and invent something out of whole cloth that's not essentially who they are. Mm-hmm. There are those actors who could do that, but that's not most actors. Most actors, certainly in a cinema environment, are projecting a big piece of who they are, and that's part of the appeal. That's why they're hired, because of what they bring in the door. You know, hiring decisions are made in about 8 seconds when someone walks in the room for an audition. It may not be, oh yes, I'm going to hire you right now, but they know in 8 seconds if they could hire you. Mm. If you're someone who could be right, they know that very quickly. And audiences make the same judgments. when someone walks on the screen, audiences make a decision about that person, a lot of decisions about that person instantly. And being human beings, we make these assessments and we're pretty confident in our assessments about, we make decisions and we feel pretty good about those assessments. And it's hard to change them.
Right.
Once we've made up our mind about somebody, we don't really move off of that easily.
Exactly.
And I think casting is like that. I think that's part of the craft of the casting director, is to be the eyes and ears and senses of an audience and assess for the audience before that person, anybody's put in that position, who could work in this world. I'm fortunate, based on my upbringing, that I feel like without really thinking about it, as I walked in the door, I was raised to be a part of something like Little House.
You were. Your passion is amazing. All right, Greg, go jump to the next question, because I know that we're almost unbelievable. 30 minutes is going to go fast. Go ahead.
It's going quick. It's going really quick. So Dean, what do you want readers to take away, let's say, primarily from the book after they absorb it?
Well, the book is for fans. It's not a there's history in it, there's some psychology in it, there's all these things, but the book is for, when I say psychology, it's like feelings and all that are in the book. But the book is for fans, and it's about a period of time in American television that I was a part of. And in that world that I was a part of, I want people to know, when they are done with my book, that I was very grateful to be part of that world that I was a part of. And the fact that we are sitting here 50 years later talking about this, Little House was never an industry favorite show. It was never cool enough. It was never edgy enough. It never had the heat around it that a lot of other shows had. But Little House is still there. And a lot of those other shows that all this heat are long gone. To be a part of something that's had this enduring appeal for people, because it's so basically about the goodness, or it teaches lessons or offers lessons about good choices, about family, about working through problems, about grace and decency. It's about all of that. And I think that's why people continue to watch it. And I don't think there's been a time in my lifetime where grace and decency are more important as a conversation piece than they are right now.
100%.
We live, it's hard to even really characterize the space we are living in right now. I think people find Little House because it's dialing down a lot of noise that just simply isn't helpful to the day-to-day choices that we all have to make. So I want people to know, bottom line, I am so grateful to have been a part of this.
Fantastic. And then what I was going to go and talk about real quick before Greg's final question is, now a lot of these are doing TV interviews. A lot of these you're not doing podcasts. My podcast will be around 25 years from now. Hopefully 50 years from now, people will be watching it. So hopefully this interview, when they go back in 25 years, 50 years, it'll be there. That's my goal of creating a library that I've done for 15 years of
15
shows,
years,
15 years in the 15 years. And I've done over 30,000 episodes in 15 years. Yeah. So I have interviewed so many different celebrities, have so many interesting stories, people that have passed on. And I'm hoping someday what, Greg and I are able to compile, and Greg will just say, that's just a portion of what I do in celebrities every week, that this will live on forever. And that's why I'm so glad the question I asked about Michael, and it's Landon. I said Landau. I don't know. I'm sure people made that mistake before.
Yeah, it's Mark Landau, Michael Landon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so,
Sci-fi, prairie,
yeah,
different.
yeah. But it doesn't matter. But the thing is, that's a powerful thing, and I'm glad you brought it up. And it's going to really, when we share this in little house groups, I'm sure they're going to be some feedback and more sales. Go ahead, Greg, with your final question. This is the celebrity question.
Great. Well, Dean, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to jump into that book. I'm sure I can get it on Amazon. Neil will
You
ask
can
you.
Amazon, Barnes and Noble. And you could just walk into your favorite bookstore and say, "Could you get me Prairie Man? I
There you
really
go.
want to check out that book by Dean Butler." And hopefully they'll get it for you. And that's good for the bookstore, and and it's good for the book overall.
Fantastic.
For in bookstores.
So here's my final question
Yeah.
for you, sir. So Dean, tell me, what do you feel is the most important thing in life that you've ever learned?
Oh my God. What kind of a question? I mean, that's a huge question. Well, okay. And I think I just said it, and I really truly believe it. I think that my life has benefited. I have benefited personally, and the relationships that I've had have benefited personally from the lessons I learned about kindness, graciousness, gratitude that I mentioned. I'm grateful for so many things, and I'm not afraid to. I'm not at all uncomfortable saying I'm grateful for things, and that has brought me so much good in my life. I think people sense that. They sense gratitude and decency, kindness. All of these things are values that I got. I fundamentally am a trusting person. I want to believe what people, and I assess. I don't trust everything but I want to see the good in people. And I think that gratitude as a core is the most important lesson that I've learned in my life, and it has served me incredibly well.
Excellent. Thank you.
It's a powerful question, but you'll go back to some of the celebrities that have answered it, Dean. And it's intriguing to go back and going to celebrity interviews live from the Grotto with Greg Hanna. You can check them out. Finding them on all my shows. Oh goodness. You'll have searching Dean and say, let me just check out an interview with Neil. That'll take you years. And someone asked me how much content you have. And I said, I have no idea. I wish someone could compile it. That never know. Once I somehow hit the lottery, or I will hit the lottery in my business or something, then I'll say, okay, now I'm going to compile all this in years. But you did a tremendous job of really being authentic for your fans. And I'm sure, the women are so loved. I think a lot of women love you. Would you agree, Dean?
I have had so many women come up to me through the years, and it's gone on for a long, long time, but more recently because being older, they feel safer saying it to me. But I've had women for years approach me to say that Almanzo was their first crush, that their first love, the guy that they hoped they would meet was something like Almanzo was. So that's a gift. That's an incredible gift. And that's one of the reasons I don't want to ever disappoint people when I meet them. I want them to have that they felt like they made a good judgment, that what they saw was real. And it was real, because what we're acting with, what most people are acting with, is some version of themselves. And with Almanzo, it was a very altruistic, good and decent version of Dean that people saw. And that's what the show called for. That's what I was hired for. That's what I brought. And I'm so grateful that I got a chance to bring that, because it goes on and on and on for people. And it's beautiful.
All right, pick up Prairie Man today and prove everyone wrong that no one's going to buy Dean's book. We're already proving it, I think, already based on where you are in best-selling book. Congratulations. And I guess really it was a bunch of malarkey. Appreciate it, Dean. You're going to sell tons of books, and who knows, there could be a part 2 down the line. Appreciate
Who
it. Sir.
knows?
All right. All right. That was a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and celebrity interviews live from the Grotto with Greg Hanna. Guys, take care. Excited to welcome the hosts of the Love Is podcast, Kim Sorrell. Kim, how are you? And I know you're excited about our guests.
I'm doing great. Thank you, Neil. And I am excited about our guests. I'm excited about what they do in and outside of what we're going to talk about today. But we have Cassie and Jonathan Byram, and they together have done so many things, but they're musical. I would like an invitation from you guys. I would like to do the Christmas sing-along if I can this year at your house. That would be so fun because I know you got to be doing it because Cassie, your husband, Jonathan's dad was Moses in
That's
Prince of
right.
Egypt. So that's pretty
right.
cool. So, and he's done a lot of things. So a talented family, acting, singing, doing songwriting, everything that you do for kids. I mean, you guys just do so much. And so I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming to our show.
Oh, it's a pleasure and a
that's
privilege.
really nice. Thanks,
We're
Kim.
excited to be here. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, great. And one more thing before we really get into 47 days with Jesus is that Jonathan, are you a father? Is that
I am.
correct?
Yeah, I've got 2 little boys, 1.5-year-old and a 3.5-year-old, and they're nuts, and it's awesome, and I love it. Yeah. And I have
So
an
what's-
amazing wife. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's nice too. That's
Yeah.
good
Guess
to
what
hear.
that makes me?
Right, that's what I was going to say. What's more important then is that Cassie, you're a grandmother, which is
I'm
the
Right.
greatest job in the world, isn't it?
It's the most fun job that you ever get. Being Gramala, that's my name. Gramala, sort of we took off on the whole thing of my
Yeah, I love that. I love
Mamala, Mamala site, Mamala media. But I'm Gramala and Amic Moses is Papala. So yeah, we have fun with that. And the kids are great.
I
So
love
fun.
it.
So
I
fun.
love it. Yeah, so here you are, mother and son, and you get to play mother and son. What
Yeah.
was that like?
Pretty amazing. Really a gift. I'm going to start with that. Honestly, out of, how God is, out of nowhere, out of just his love for us and just surprises us with things. And this was a surprise and really special in that sense, like you just said, Kim, in that it's mother and son playing mother and son for the first time ever in film or television as Jesus and Mary.
Wow.
So we got to make history together. It's kind of fun.
And how did this project come about? Tell us.
Well, I can
Jonathan,
share
you're
about that because I got involved actually earlier on, and I was called one day by a lady here in town who does vocal production, and she helped with the Sister Act movies, and she sung on a bunch of different films, and she called me and just asked me to sing a song demo. Just some composer that she was working with was working on a musical, and it was about Jesus, and they just needed someone to sing these song demos so they could just hear what it sounded like and maybe rewrite it or whatever. And I get calls like that like on a fairly regular basis. I'm a professional singer, and that's like what my work generally is. And so I went in and sang a song demo, and then a few months later she calls me again and says, "Hey, there's another song for this project. Would you come in and sing it?" Great, yeah, come in and sing it. A few months later, same thing. A few months later, same thing. And then the next call is, "Jonathan, this project that you've been singing for, it's going to be a movie. They're going to make it." And I'm like, "What?" Because so often these projects that I get to sing demos for, it gets workshopped, it gets put on a shelf eventually, and it just things, all these projects that people develop, but this one's like getting made, and I was like, amazing, that's so cool. And she says, "We love your voice." The producer, the director, they love your voice. And are you interested in playing Jesus on camera, actually playing the role? I was like, oh my goodness, you're gonna have to get me an acting coach. And but yes, I'm open to it. And they agreed. They got me an acting coach. They loved working with me, through the audition process, and so that's my story of how the movie got made, of how I got involved with it. And then the next call was, "Hey, do you think your mom would play Mary?" and Darlene Koldenhoven, this lady who was producing all the vocals who I was talking about, she knows my mom through the singing world, and so but yeah, so she asked me to see if I'd be okay with it or something, but I told her, you know, call Cassie, call my mom, yeah, because I thought that'd be really cool. Yeah, so that's my story. That's how I got involved with the movie.
Yeah, Darlene is
actor.
a good friend of ours from past. My husband Amick and I have been in entertainment for a very long time, both as singers as well. And so Darlene has done, we've done several projects with her. So once she got Jonathan involved, it just kind of came to her that, hey, why not? Let's bring Cassie in. Let's see if everybody's good with her being mama and, you know, being Mary. And it's as simple as that, really. That's how it worked out.
It's so cool. I love this story, and I love that they asked you, Jonathan.
Yeah, right.
Like you got to give your permission, and it would have been a whole different thing if you would have said, you know, I don't know that she's right for the part. She's
Yeah.
my mother and all, but that would be a little awkward. Probably.
No one could have been better. It was, totally perfect.
Thanks,
And
Yes,
Greg.
so
worked
this
together.
project is so different. It's such a different way to present the story.
Yeah.
And so whoever came up with it, kudos to them, because it makes it sheds a whole different light on it, I guess. I think
I
I feel
agree
like
with
it
you.
brings back then to today.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really cool team. Roland Jacks is the executive producer. He's like the force behind this movie, making it happen from, you know, in every way. And then the team that he assembled with Emilio Palame, who he collaborated with on a past film, like a supremely creative and skilled person, musically, creatively, dramatically. And then another partner, David Gattel, with whom he co-directed the film and co-wrote it. That threesome really was the creative force and just power force behind it all. And yeah, the unique approach to it, where it's modern day, you know, this family going through some real stuff, and then, you know, with interspersed with actual, like, you know, period piece moments portraying Jesus's story, and the way it reverberates and connects and resonates with the present day stuff. It's really cool. I mean, it affected me when I saw it, because I didn't really see the modern day stuff until I saw the movie, because I only saw the Jesus part of it, and that was powerful enough just to be part of that, and you know, to see what was going on with that while it was being made, and to dive into the character and all that. But then to see it all pieced together, edited really well by that team, and yeah, it's really cool.
Wow. And working together, was it hard always working with your mom every day on set, you know, like the whole process? Was that a little bit of a challenge, you know, because always working with family members, it can get a little, you know, different than normal going to work.
Yeah,
the
that's
good-
true. That's true.
The good news is I wasn't there every day. So Jonathan got a lot of breaks from me. So, but I
No, working with
tried to, you know, just be the actress and not the mama as much.
Yeah, and you are a really good actress, and that was, I mean, part of the awesome part of this experience for me. I already told you guys I'm not really an actor until, like, well, now I am, I guess. But you know, all this training I got, and then being on set with really experienced actors, such as my mom, who has way more experience, and you know, has had a career with a lot of roles in it. You know, my career has been purely music, essentially, with a couple of just random on stage things and camera things. But yeah, like, it upped my game to be with someone like my mom, who was like crying, you know, very present with her feelings. And then other people I got to work with too, who were just like, you know, brought a lot of depth to their roles and challenged me to do the same, and even like helped me find more depth as like they reacted to me with such like truth. Yeah, it was really cool experience.
Wow.
Great with my mom.
That is so cool. That's so cool. 47 Days with Jesus is it's just so well done. And you're right, Jonathan, your mom is a really good actress.
Mhm.
Thank you.
But you, sir,
Thank you.
are a very good actor.
Thanks.
Yes.
Susan.
And so
Yes.
you just mentioned the emotional stuff, right? I mean,
Mm.
because you're going through the last 47 days of Jesus' life
Right.
and through the crucifixion and whatever. I mean, the hardest stuff
Mhm.
to watch. And it's portrayed in a way though that's so kind of family friendly, not like
Mhm.
The Passion or something like that, but
Right. Yeah.
portrayed in a real way, but more family friendly. So when you saw your mom get emotional, did you just want to walk over and give her a hug, or what was it like to see? And Cassie, you too with Jonathan.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I was so nervous about doing a good job. Yeah, I wasn't that present with like, oh, it's my mom, you know. But yeah, I mean, but it helped me embody the role more for sure. And yeah.
Yeah, I remember that first day of filming for me, my first day of filming. It wasn't your first day, but where we had that first scene. And you know, when you do a film, you don't do things in sequence. It's not like, you know, you're doing it, the timeline for the film isn't necessarily the way it's filmed. So my first day, we jumped into a scene where Mary is notified of the presence of her son as being resurrected by his presence. He's there. And you know, biblically that is correct. She was a part of that. And so for her to see him for the first time in his resurrected form after having just experienced the death of her son, it was a very emotional scene, a very emotional moment. And for me, it was easy to embody. And but for John, I think Jonathan was a bit surprised. I remember that day when he taps my shoulder and he turns me around and I see him for the first time, and the emotion that just wells up, and then it affected him.
Yeah, that's true.
And so
Yeah.
it was quite a moment. It was very interesting. And that was our first moment on film together. So
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Wow. Okay. So what were you most surprised about doing this film? Like what did you learn from both of you guys
Mm.
in this
Mm.
film?
Well, for me, it was really going in depth about Mary. And I know it's interesting how, you know, the Protestant evangelical church, we don't focus on Mary very much. But so to get to really dive deep and explore, well, who was this person? And then it just was so obvious. It came to me so quickly that the why she was chosen, it had, you know, God, who is omniscient, all knowing, of course, he knew who she was. He knew her character. Even at that point when she is told that she is pregnant with the Son of God, he knew not only who she was in that moment, but who she was going to be and what kind of character she was going to maintain in her resilience, in her persistence, in her perseverance, that she was the one that was going to be able to handle this entire journey. And it's, you know, you think about it, it's a journey that starts with just this, the Magnificat, right? This amazing journey of wow, this Messiah that she's been raised to hear about, and she's going to carry this Messiah into the world, and then all the way to the journey to watching him tortured and die. God knew this was the woman who could handle this. So that was a surprising, you know, that was a surprising journey for me, something that I probably would never have really dived into if I hadn't had this role.
It's so cool, Mom. I haven't heard you share like all those details. That's so cool.
Yeah.
It is so cool. What about you, Jonathan? What
Yeah,
was
mine's kind of similar. The moment that sums it up for me is the moment in the Garden of Gethsemane when Judas is walking towards Jesus, or you know, I'll say me, because that's kind of how I was, I was experiencing it. I've thought about Jesus a lot. I've been raised in the church. I'm a believer. So this is all very real to me. But I've thought about the lessons, that maybe get preached on, around these moments, like, what Jesus was doing, going to the cross, and his his willingness to be obedient to the point of death, and that I get to benefit from that, and that he conquers death. But I don't think I ever hear about, and this is what I got to explore, what was Jesus actually thinking when he saw his friend walking towards him, about to betray him? I think that was a point of exploration for me, because I got to because I had to be in that moment and like live it. And I don't do that kind of work as a follower of Jesus often. I just think, okay, how does Jesus and his life and his death and resurrection apply to, how I am at work? How does it apply to how I treat my family, or treat strangers, or whatever? But just to use my imagination and biblical context to get as deep as I can into Jesus's thought life. It was really, really fascinating, and powerful, and emotional. I mean, I believe that Jesus embodies forgiveness of a sort that we can just hardly even understand. And so my attempt to, live in that as best as I could for that moment when Judas is walking towards me, it was very emotional, really powerful, and gave me a whole different experience of my own faith, and just who historical Jesus, is. And yeah, that was probably the most surprising part of working on the film for me.
Yeah, wow, that would be a huge moment for sure. Because you think about, if in our humanness, if somebody would betray you in whatever way they betray you, you might forgive them, but you're not going to forget it, right?
Yeah, right.
And so they,
Or I might
yeah,
not forgive them, to be honest with you. Like, I might be
exactly.
real
Yeah,
mad.
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Jonathan. Jonathan is not, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. You might not forgive them. And
Mhm.
so if you've got this person walking up to you about to kiss your cheek, you might shove them away. You might
Mhm.
not just embrace what's happening.
Yeah.
And so for Jesus to so quickly, so readily, so gracefully, so mercifully behave the way that he did and react the way that he did, very emotional. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's
I love
right. I
that
mean,
you
just
shared that.
that much forgiveness, and that much love. I mean, I believe it would have saddened Jesus, to the core, to see someone doing that. And then, I haven't betrayed anyone as dramatically as Judas betrayed Jesus, but I am a sinner, and I've got some darkness I'm a broken, depraved person, and I Jesus's heart breaks for me in that way. Um, and I think I learned that in a new way than I have before, because of playing this movie.
All right. So Kim has a love question for both of you guys. Go ahead, Kim, with your love question.
Yeah, so I decided I was going to figure out the true meaning of love, because God is love, right? And so I figured if you could live love, it would be living the way that God would want us to live. And so I took a year, I dedicated a year, and I used 1 Corinthians 13, love is patient, love is kind, does not envy, does not boast, and took one word or phrase a month and really dove into it and lived it. I was in Haiti most of the time while I was doing it. And the things I learned about love just rocked my world. It changed everything for me. And
Cool.
so love is everything, right? I mean, love is everything. But I'm curious for you guys, what is love for you separately, and what does it mean for you together?
Well, first of all, what a worthy endeavor. Oh my goodness. I've never heard anybody say that they've done that before. So that's pretty
Well, and
spectacular.
Cassie, just to let you know, when I go to dinner, I have a hard time committing to an entree. So committing a year to something was out of my comfort zone. for sure.
I can relate actually to that. Oh my goodness. Well, that's inspiring. I mean, that's inspiring. Wow, your question is a good one. It's a really good
great.
question. And I think it feeds into something that I try to keep in front of me every day, and that is a spirit of self-examination, which I believe is, the Christian walk. And in that, we continue to discover, like I was talking about Mary and the kind of character that she had, how would we hold up under that scrutiny? And so that to me is love in that we're able to walk our Christian walk with as much of all of those attributes as possible. And the first one for me is kindness. Kindness really does is something that I have to work for. It doesn't, I don't know that it comes naturally for me. And I think I unfortunately had a little bit of training up in a little more wiliness and for the sake of, it's that maybe the means was supposed to justify the end in some way. So I've had to undo a lot of things. And so kindness would be the focus for me when it comes to love. And then what it means in the everyday life, so that's a personal focus. And then with family, family is at this point in my life, it's everything. It's everything. And I just, it is the greatest joy. And when we happen to have had a family gathering last night here at our house, and the elevation of feelings, of whatever is released when you're feeling really good, really skyrockets for me when I'm doing life with family, present, together, physically present. It really, that is the epitome of love that I can experience here on earth, aside from understanding God's love for me and what he did for me. I don't know if that answers your question.
That's good. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. I feel the same way with family. In fact, in a couple of days, I'm leaving for Japan with 13 of some of my kids and grandkids, my kids and grandkids,
Nice.
and which is crazy. But
Wow.
yes, I'm so looking forward to spending 2 full weeks together.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I know
that's
the
great.
feeling. I know the feeling well. I totally agree.
Yeah.
What about you, Jonathan?
For me, my personal journey with that, where there's been blockers for me between me and love or living love has been forgiveness. When I have had a hard time forgiving, it's just, I'm not loving, because it's super obvious, but when God has worked on me enough to forgive, as well as ask for forgiveness, and the two are interconnected in some interesting ways, but I get to experience love, and it's just so obvious that that's what God shows us through his word and through Jesus's life. But it's just so hard to live out sometimes, especially when it's just, there's just certain areas, I think for me individually, that can be really tough. But yeah, when God has worked on me in those ways, love has like just unleashed and flooded a part of my heart that maybe was blocked off before, just experience it more fully. And family is a really wonderful context for that to happen. One of the wonderful things about family is that you're committed to each other or stuck with each other. So that, it's sort of like, well, forgive or ask for forgiveness or be miserable. Like those are your two choices. So, with friends, I can kind of detach. I can, I can stop calling. I can, whatever, even if it does eat at me or it's not the healthiest approach, just it's easier to avoid. And with family, you don't get those options. I think that's a blessing, especially within the context of marriage, where, you're living together all the time. And It's like, okay, figure this out, humble thyself, or be miserable. And yeah, I think God just works in amazing ways and teaches me his love in that context quite a lot. So that's what it is for me. And then, you know, so in the movie 47 Days with Jesus, that moment I described with me and Judas, that was a moment of forgiveness. And there's a moment with Peter at another scene where it's all about forgiveness. And then there's a moment with Pontius Pilate, who is exercising his power and arrogance and authority. And Jesus gets to again live out forgiveness. And then the way that all those things, and that carried me through as an actor. It became kind of my like anchor for doing the role. And then I got to see, like I was saying earlier, when I saw the full movie, I got to see all of that forgiveness stuff in the Jesus part. That's like the key to what's going on in the modern day family drama that we get to see unfold. There's like, there's issues like overworking and neglecting your family and being rude to somebody, but like all those things it's like the thing over and above all those issues is forgiveness. And it just comes through in such a powerful way with the relationships in the family in the movie.
All right. Best place we can watch the movie. Where can we go?
Good
Well,
question.
right now it's getting ready to be released on DVD. So if you want to order it, you can go to, I believe, Amazon, Walmart. You can pre-order it right now. It's coming out June 11th. And I'll tell you, I want to say, I know I can even hear the eye rolls right now of DVD, but I'll tell you, people are starting to understand the difference in quality of when you are watching a project that's been how it's been perfectly rendered and just beautifully filmed, and you get that full quality when you have it on DVD as opposed to streaming. Now I'm not saying it's not enjoyable on streaming. It's easier and all that, and it will come out on streaming, I believe, at the end of the summer. I'm not sure of that date, but right now you can own it. And I would tell people, go get it, because this is a family film. And like Jonathan was saying, all of these aspects of the beautiful aspects of forgiveness and love and family it's a beautiful tapestry that's interwoven in this film. And there's a lot of kids in the film too, who do a beautiful job. And children, this is a real family film that families can watch together. And you know how kids are, and grandkids, they want to watch something over and over again. So it's worth it to go get the DVD and then, hopefully, I think a lot of people still have their DVD players. I know we do.
No.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So thanks again, Cassie. Thanks again, Jonathan. That was a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Love Is podcast, guys. Take care.